Thank you. Thanks, Karine. You said that President Biden was familiar with what his son was going to say on Capitol Hill. If I called my dad and said, I am about to violate a congressional subpoena, he'd probably say, son, you shouldn't do that. Was there any attempt by President Biden to talk Hunter out of it today?
You're going to call your dad Steve?
Call him Dad, usually.
Look, I don't have anything else to add. The president was familiar with what Hunter was going to say today. Look, he's proud of his son. He and the First Lady are proud of his son, how he's rebuilding his life back. He's going to focus on what is needed on the American people. Hunter, and I've said this many times, is a private citizen. And so certainly I would have to refer you to his representatives. I'm just not going to get into private conversations because what you're asking me is actually a private conversation. I'm just not going to get into it.
Right.
First briefing since Hunter was indicted again in Los Angeles. Why doesn't President Biden just pardon him?
Good one.
President, I've been very clear. The president's not going to pardon his
And
son.
one more about these this Ukraine money for border policy negotiations. In the last 24 hours, 10,000 illegal border crossings, southwest border. Would you admit that the border policy, the Biden border policy so far has not worked?
What I will say is that we have known for decades, that the immigration policy is, the immigration system is broken. We've said that over and over again. That has been Republican administration and Democratic administration. That is not unheard of. That is what we have seen for the past couple of decades. The president has put forth a comprehensive immigration policy legislation on his first day to deal with this issue. Republicans refuse. They refuse to deal with this issue. It's been almost 3 years since he put forth that legislation. So we're going to do what we can do from here, but we have said this is something that needs to be dealt with in a bipartisan way, About 1,000 of these illegal border crossers every day are getting away to parts unknown in the U.S. Does the president think that is a national security risk? Here's what I'll say. One of the ways that we also have to look at this is what congressional Republicans have refused to do. They refused to support previous requests from the president. What they've asked to do actually hurts the issue, hurts the problem that we're seeing at the border. They said no to border agents. They've said no to new technology to fight fentanyl. They said no to additional aids now.
Ever. Huh?
Okay.
Two things. Just days after taking office and shortly after issuing that legislation that has gone nowhere in Congress regarding immigration and the border, the president issued an executive order saying he would, quote, restore and strengthen our own asylum system, which has been badly damaged by policies enacted over the last 4 years that contravened our values and caused needless human suffering. Our reporting, others' reporting, indicates the White House, through sources in the administration, is open to an authority that would allow it to suspend asylum processing when there's a spike in border crossings. Wouldn't that be a major policy reversal and revert back to the previous 4 years?
I'm just not going to go into sourcing from here. I'm not going to get into specifics. There are negotiations happening. Not going to negotiate from the podium. I'm going to let the conversation happen. We have to find a bipartisan compromise.
Well, that is one way to say it.
That's what the president said. That's what the president believes in order to deal with this issue. And you started off your question asking, or laying out actually, that the president did put forth, and you laid that out in your question, a comprehensive immigration reform plan. He did that on day one, and it is going on 3 years. On 3 years.
He spent pushing that
On
bill
3
with
years.
Congress.
Here's the
Because he's
thing.
met with them on foreign policy,
Right.
on fiscal cliffs,
And we
on
have-
budget,
and
and it's
we-
never been about
No, I hear you,
immigration.
Ed. We have regular conversations with congressional leaders and congressional staff about an array of issues, including this. I mean, you cannot send a bigger message to Congress and the American people when you say when you put out your first piece of legislation is on this issue, is on reforming immigration, right? Is on fixing.
Flat when you spend very little public time as president talking about the issue, meeting with congressional leaders on the issue specifically, or doing
I disagree.
anything else other than having you come out here and say,
I disagree.
we issued a bill on day
I
one.
disagree. It's not just issue a bill. Like, not too long ago, back in the spring, we put forth policies on trying to make sure that, because Congress didn't help,
Oh my God.
on trying to put forth policies that try to make the immigration system humane, right? Humane and actually dealing with the issue that we're seeing at the border. We have taken policy actions after policy actions without the help from Congress. Without, right? And so that is being consistent here. And when you put forth the first piece of legislation to be on this issue that has been broken for decades, I mean, that's what he did as president. That's taking it very, very seriously.
Mitch McConnell alluded to something, a conversation he had with the president last week. I'm not asking you for names, but can you at least confirm that the president has spoken with lawmakers directly on the ongoing talks to get the supplemental
The
done?
president has been in regular touch with congressional leaders on this issue, and obviously so has his staff.
There were rumors that there was a rumor, but that was just bullshit.
I mean, everything else today, did he spend any time watching what his son had to say outside the Capitol?
So just a couple of things on that, and I want to be really clear. Look, as you know, Hunter Biden is a private citizen, and so I certainly would refer you to his representatives. Look, the president was certainly familiar with what his son was going to say, and I think what you saw was from the heart from his son. And you've heard me say this. You've heard the president say this. When it comes to the president and the first lady, they are proud of him continuing to rebuild his life. They are proud of their son. But I do want to say a couple of things here that I think I can touch on, is that the president is also focused on the important work of the American people. We just went back and forth about what's happening at the border and how he wants to make sure that we secure the border, and the work that he and his team has been doing on negotiating to make sure that there's a bipartisan compromise. You saw him yesterday stand right next to President Zelensky. There could not have been a more powerful picture with the President of the United States standing next to President Zelensky, who he and the brave people in Ukraine are fighting for their democracy, right? And this is something that the President has led on, the world on, in making sure that President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine have what they need to beat against tyranny, to fight back against Russia's aggression. And, you heard me at the beginning of this briefing talking about how he met with hostages who were held by Hamas, and how emotional and impactful that meeting was. That was a two-hour meeting that he had with the family members, and it was important. It was important. He just convened, right, a meeting on infrastructure. So he's going to remain focused on making sure that we continue to deliver for the American people. That's what the president has done since day one.
I'm out of here.